Good morning and welcome back to the Closers Inner Circle podcast with your hosts, Ben Gay III and Denise Griffitts. And over the past few weeks, we've been talking a lot about sales professionals finishing the year strong and heading into the new year with full confidence and preparation. We're in November. We're close to Thanksgiving. So as a sales professional, finishing the year strong and starting the next one ahead of the competition is everything. So, in this episode, we're going to share a blueprint for sales closers, how to wrap up deals before year end, learn from past mistakes, forecast and prioritize Q1 opportunities, and maintain momentum through November. A lot of people in all industries, the holidays are here, got a lot going on, and they just kind of slow down. That's not a good idea, no matter what industry you're in. So, if you want to maximize your sales performance and set yourself up for record breaking results, this episode is for you. And today we are sponsored by one of our favorite sponsors, David L. Brown. David has been a longtime supporter of the Closers Inner Circle podcast as well as your partner in Success Radio. And he is a valued friend behind the scenes for everything we do. I mean, he's just a great advocate for meaningful conversations that are rooted in integrity, service, and purpose-driven entrepreneurship. Thank you, David. You can find him, by the way, by going to dbbrowncompany.com, and you can find him on LinkedIn. So tell him we sent you. Good morning, Ben. I don't think we had time to get to some of the questions that our audience has sent you recently, and you also wanted me to remind you about black goo, whatever that is.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Just a graphic way of explaining problems that tend to follow us around in business. And I'm glad David Brown is back as a sponsor today. He's a buddy and has become an old friend. And by that, I mean, I was trying to think back to when we first met, and it was probably 15, 20 years ago.
Yes, Tony
Time,
Robleski.
yeah, time
One of his.
flies. Uh, we went to see a friend of Gigi's the other day, and as we pulled up, I said, "Now, is the little kid walking yet, or what?" And Gigi said, "Well, probably. She's 7."
Time does fly. You're
We're,
right.
we're talking the difference between men and women. More anniversaries and dates than the average guy does, and Gigi knows them all. I'll remind her it's your niece's birthday, and your niece's birthday is coming up, and she'll go, "Yeah, on the 15th," and I have it noted and already bought her a gift. So,
Aw.
well, mine is written in the calendar. I didn't spontaneously know that. But we were standing in line at a pharmacy one day, and everybody, they don't operate on names anymore. The birthday is all they need, it seems. I go up to a counter, go, 82242, and good morning.
Howdy.
Yeah, but I'm getting ready to try and remember Gigi's birthday. I always get the 27th and the 28th mixed up, so I got that on my mind. And in front of us is a young man, 30-ish, I'm guessing, with his son. And the lady said, picking up something for the son, and the lady said, "Well, sir, what is your son's birthday?" And he steps back, cocks his head back like he's looking for inspiration in the clouds. And he says, "I remember it was in the spring."
That sounds like my mother. She couldn't remember anything like that. And if there was any kind of a crisis, like me on a stretcher in a hospital room, she would panic, and because I had pneumonia one time that was really awful, and they had given me penicillin, which darn near killed me. But they were asking her those kinds of questions. Well, what's her name? And she just went blank. She said, Denise, Diane, Debbie, you know your name. She was hysterical. To this day, I still answer to Denise, Diane, or Debbie, or damn it, you know your name. And that's it. So, some people
Well, this,
don't handle things well.
this guy, I said to him, I was standing right behind him, I said, "You should thank God your wife is not here."
I know. But
I
the
remember,
baby, the son, the kid, he's going to tell. He's
Yeah,
gonna
and
go straight to mom.
that's become part of our family talk. If you want to say that you've forgotten something you should know, numerous members of our family now say, "I remember it was in the spring." So
Honestly,
anyway,
that
I'm
sounds
glad.
like something that my mom would pull. I mean, she really just she couldn't handle who we were, what our birthdays were. She couldn't even remember her own. I gave up even thinking I was gonna hear from her on the right day. She'd call me the next day or the day before, or, "Did I remember your birthday?" "No, mom, but I forgive you again." It became a joke. Can you hear my cat? That's Odalie, my 21-year-old. She's
Uh,
screaming her head off.
no, I didn't. I thought maybe you were just burping or something, but
No, it's my cat. She's trying to convince me that she's going to starve to death. She ate just before we got on this call. She's
yeah,
not gonna die.
we have two, as you know, that wandered in one day and never left. Uh, Although we sort of know where one came from, but doesn't make any difference. They moved in here, and the other day, Gigi looks out in the back deck, and there's a new cat sitting there, nose against the sliding glass door. And so she opens it, and uh, in he comes, purred, rubbed up against her, and sat down and did that meow thing. Can I have some
Right.
food?
Right. I'm
And
starving.
yeah, and I said, Gigi, we have enough cats. We have two more than we need, and I don't really need a third one. Well, it turns out he had a little collar on him, so he lives down the street somewhere. I'm gonna. We just let him go about his business. I assume he found his way home. But next time I see him, I'm going to tell him, if your cat is missing, my wife spoils stray cats. So just come up to the house and we'll give him back to you.
Put a note on his collar. I've done that before.
I wanted to do that when we only had one cat, because I want to know, where does he go? I know that he eats, both of them eat somewhere else. One of them, I'm sure, eats at three places: our son's place in the back, the next door neighbor where he supposedly belongs, our house, and he's, I'm guessing, roughly 12 pounds overweight.
No, he needs an air tag.
Yeah, there's no point putting him on a diet because he's got at least two other places. You can't control it.
No, you
But,
can't.
but anyway, the new cat who's trying to move in is named Kenny. And I'm figuring the other two will prevent that from happening. They're a little territorial, even of each other, never mind a third cat. Anyway, we were going to wrap up we were going to do black goo and,
Yeah, and questions. I know it's been a while. I
yeah.
had somebody say, "Hey, are you guys still, letting us ask questions?" Yes, we are, but sometimes we just get busy and can't get to them, so we probably should hit some of those pretty quickly.
Well, they were the three that I have here, besides black goo, are people asking about the history of other things they've heard us talk about. So I'll do them that way. They're sort of questions. Black goo. It was I was doing a training class somewhere, one of our companies, but a training class, and I was talking about, you try and stomp this out and script this so they won't say it wrong and do this and so on, how frustrating it is sometimes. And um, somehow it came to mind. The word picture I got was, it's like black goo. You can seal everything up, and you have a pristine environment, and somewhere, because nature can't stand a vacuum or an open space, somewhere the black goo, the negativity, the uh, misinformation or whatever, will find its way in and come creeping in. And I would point to a door or something. I said, if this room was hermetically sealed under that, right there in that edge, within a day or two, the black goo would be coming, picture liquid tar. The black goo would be creeping into the room. And that again became one of those things where it became company jargon and our family jargon. If I'm saying, how did this happen again? Tony, our youngest, Gigi's biological son, will say, "Well, Dad, it's like the black goo." You know,
And I'm with you. I'm picturing roofing tar while you're talking.
yeah. And he wasn't even alive when that happened the first time. But the black goo is a way to describe ongoing problems that reappear and reappear and reappear, no matter how strong you go to stomp them out. And then I was asked about two Cadillac stories. One is when I was trying to recruit Jesus, I think somebody in the Bible said it's hard to be a prophet in your own hometown. Well, when I went from young kid, acne, 142 pounds, to relatively quickly, 2 or 3 years from that stage with acne, etc., to making a good deal of money. And now I'm trying to recruit people because it was multi-level marketing to come into the business. So I first went to family, friends, and neighbors. Big mistake.
Yeah, if
But
you ever somebody tried to recruit you into Mary Kay,
yeah,
that's what you talk to your family, talk to your cousins. I don't like my cousins. Talk to them anyway. But
Mary Kay, Small World, was a holiday magic distributor. I don't know if
I
I've ever
know. You
yeah,
told me
told you.
that.
I
Yeah.
was sitting in her office one day in Dallas, and in this pink, it almost make you dizzy. It was all pink, carpet, ceilings, floors, her.
I hate pink. That's one of those colors I can't stand.
Well, it's certainly an attention getter if you're surrounded by it. It's like black goo. Everywhere you look, it was pink. But anyway, in just chatting with her, she said, "Do you realize that I was a holiday girl?" That's what we call our version of the Avon lady in Holiday Magic Cosmetics. And I said, "No," because she was a big, I mean, they had a big company. They were doing very well. She said, "Yep, Ern Westmore, as you may recall." I said, "Yes, I met him, spent time with him, and he died while introducing me on stage."
Right. I knew that name.
Yeah. She said, "You hired," I didn't, William Penpatrick did before I got there, hired Ern Westmore, the Dean of Hollywood Makeup Artists, as your vice president charge of beauty and fashion. And she said, "I was just starting out. I didn't have the manuals done yet or anything. And when I heard that, I went to a Holiday Magic Opportunity meeting, let them do the presentation for me, signed up, gave them my whatever it was, $200 to get my little kit of stuff." So she said I needed samples and everything. And primarily, I knew it came with the manuals that Ern
Right.
Westmore had done for you. She
She's a
said,
smart lady. She was.
yeah. She same way I've started a couple of companies rather than build it from the ground up, hire somebody who's already doing it and have them come over there and do it for you.
Mhm.
But anyway, she joined Holiday Magic, and they had shown me before I went to see her. Somebody said, she was one of our distributors. And I said, "Really?" And they pulled out the application she'd filled out that day in the early 60s, 64-ish, and showed it to me. I said, I've seen your application. How come you didn't do more in the business?" Because I didn't join to do more. I already had my business. I joined it to get your manuals. And she said, "If you'll read our manuals, I think you'll see some striking similarities."
She relocated information.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. She wasn't stealing it exactly.
No, no, it
Uh,
was her manual was on her table. She could do what she wanted with it.
and I guess talking about hers, talking about Cadillacs, the two stories I was supposed to share, it probably jogged my memory because of her pink Cadillacs. And now pink Mercedes and pink this and pink that. But she was quite a lady. She was a life force. When you talked to her, you weren't just talking to some sweet lady who started a cosmetic company. She was a power, and she'd have been good at anything. Any business she decided to go in, she'd have done very well. And she came out of, I can't think of the name of it. It's a legendary direct sales company in Texas, early multi-level marketing people. you'll hear that name pop up because that's sort of where they all came from originally. Home care, some. I'll think of it
Yeah, I
tonight
can't. I
at
don't
2
know.
o'clock.
Yeah, text me.
So anyway, I'm busy running around the neighborhood. Uh, the kid who was selling Christmas cards to him just a few years before out of his red wagon, and I'm saying, give me 25,000. It was, I'm adjusting that for inflation. It was only 2,500 and or 5,000 to get into Holiday Magic where he could really make some money. So this kid is running around with 25,000, let's say. And no, no, no. I'd even hear from relatives, I love you, but no. Uh, they were considering the source. Roughly
Right.
translated, that was, uh, we know you. You don't know anything about business. You haven't overheard at dinner. And, and you don't have two nickels to rub together. So, no. My first Cadillac thing was Jimmy Rucker and I were partners. And we decided, since everybody else had a nice car, Lincolns, Cadillacs, and so on, were gathered around the meeting places, that we ought to have one too. We ought to have two. And then we went down and priced them and discovered that getting one might be a challenge. So we got one and immediately came up with a story. The story being, we each got a Cadillac. And so no one would be jealous. We got them equipped identically. They were both sedan DeVille's, light blue, really pretty cars. And they're identical. Same radio, same this, same that, and so on. Well, they only saw one at a time because we only had one. And the one who had the best prospect that night, or prospects, used it and went out and picked them up for the internet. You invited somebody to an opportunity meeting. If you want to make sure they showed up, you went and got them. So whoever had the most or the best used the car that night. And one day I'm standing outside the Americana Hotel in downtown Atlanta, and the valet is bringing the car around, and I'm thinking, I wish they'd let me get my own car because now I got to tip him, and that was a challenge. We were broke. And so around
But you
comes
had a Cadillac.
but I had a Cadillac. Around comes the Cadillac, and this old, I wish I could think of his name, great guy. He was more my father's age, very distinguished, well-dressed, gray hair. And he said, that's really a good-looking, as the car came around, that's really a good-looking Cadillac. And I said, well, thank you very much. Jimmy and I each got one, and they're equipped. And I went into the story, same radio, same this, so nobody would be jealous. And he said, yeah, I saw Jimmy and his the other night, and they are identical, right down to the tag numbers.
The license plate. Sometimes you should just not expand on your story.
Yeah.
Just kind of keep it to yourself.
And
Yes, it's a
I
nice car.
withered because I'd been caught. A, I'd been caught, and B, I'd been caught by a man that my father would be friends with. So it was like he was catching a little boy lying. And I don't remember. There's probably a funnier ending to the story, but I don't remember it because my mind just went blank. Meanwhile, back in the neighborhood, I found out the power of the Cadillacs. Rather than say, come join me, we're going to make a lot of money. All I had to do was pull up in my parents' driveway in the Cadillac, and people came out of the woodwork, hopped over the hedges. Hey, Ben, how you doing? Wow. Whose car is that? What's mine? Where'd you get a Cadillac? At the Cadillac dealership. And what they're trying to do is, how did you make enough money to have a Cadillac?
Oh,
And
yeah, exactly. How'd you
then,
afford that?
yeah, then they were lined up to join Holiday Magic, and almost all of them did. So that was the power of the Cadillac.
An
Unless,
observation. People do watch
yeah,
what you're
absolutely.
doing. They'll listen to you some. I find that people don't really listen all that well. I don't. I try, but I'll be listening to something and then all of a sudden squirrel and off I go. It's just we all do that, but we're observing even when we're attempting to listen. And if we see something that's tangible like a Cadillac, we're like, "Huh." Now that starts a whole 'nother chain of thoughts in your head.
I have a friend who bought one in New York, bought one of those fake Rolexes. I wouldn't know a real one from a fake one because to me, a watch is something you tell time with. And I'm not trying, I don't want to wear an ugly one, but the one I have on right now, Gigi sells vintage jewelry, and she got it in a box of something with other earrings and other stuff. I said, that's a good looking watch. She said, we'll take it. I'm like, I don't really sell men's watches. So everybody thinks it's lovely. Had she sold it, she said she would have put it up for $25. I got it for free. So my impressive watch, which is not a Rolex, real or imagined, is a free watch that would have cost 20 if I hadn't stolen it from Gigi. And
No, no, we don't use that word in the South. We relocate.
relocate, yeah,
Yeah.
relocate. Which led me to, he said, and then the ball story. And I see, because he reminded me of the two Cadillacs, one that shared license tags. And he was talking about in my youth, I would say whatever it took to get in or out of a situation. I'm a stickler now for strict honesty. I found the benefits of it and so on. But I didn't have that thing earlier in my life. So I'm
What
telling
you're
my,
really saying, you want to say you didn't have that wisdom, but what you're really saying is you hadn't been smacked around enough until you finally figured it out.
yeah, and the two license tags on the Cadillac might have been sort of the start of that. When we joined Holiday Magic, everybody was making at least 10,000 a month, and this was in the early '60s. So today that'd be about 100,000 a month. And
Nice.
so I said to Rucker, when people, since it was all about money, when they asked how much we're making, let's say 10,000, so we have our story straight. We weren't making anything yet. So we exaggerated. It's a nice Southern word for lied, and said 10,000. Well, rather quickly, we were making 10,000. And the theory of the business was it multiplied, which it did. So after a while, I said, we better jump up to 20 because we've been saying 10 for so long. And we said 20. Then we were making 20. So we jumped to 30 and then 40,000 a month, 400,000 in today's money. And I said, okay, Rucker, no matter how much we make, because pretty quick we were making 40,000 a month, that's our top figure. It's starting to get unbelievable. It was a lie to start with. Now it's the truth, and it sounds like a lie. So we're not going to do that anymore. And we peaked out. No matter how much money I made, I always said 40,000, something like that. And
That's
sometimes,
still enough to make people's eyes water, and they don't go any further. They're like,
yeah, and yeah, it's enough. So anyway, my father, who was athletic, he was not a big guy, but he was spry, and he was a professional high diver, swimming pool type diver from the high dive, professional diver briefly. He could, on the day he died, one of his warehouse workers said, Mr. Ben, would you do that backflip in the show with Charlie here or something? And Dad could stand there and on his feet and just throw his head back, do a complete flip, land on his feet. And he always sort of disappointed I couldn't do that. There was a girl next door who was became the state gymnast thing. And I used to think her name was Suella Harris. I thought Dad loves her better than me because she could do all the
"Could do
things
it."
I couldn't do and had
If
no
I
des-
tried it, I would break my neck and land on my butt
Yeah,
simultaneously.
exactly, which is the reason I never tried it. Why would I deliberately kill myself? So anyway, I came home one day, and for lack of something, I don't know why, I think it came out of the air. I said to my mother and father, "Oh, we were playing, fill in the blank basketball today. I don't remember what the sport it was." And they said, "Really? How you doing?" And I said, because that's the way I used to think. Well, I was elected captain. I don't think I told them it was basketball. We were playing today, and blah blah blah. And I was elected captain. And Dad said, "Captain of what sport?" and I hadn't gone that far in my story yet. Like I caught Zig one time telling a story about something, and I knew all this stuff backwards and forwards. And he told a new story about this old boy back home, and he said this, and Zig said this, blah, blah, blah. And as we were leaving the meeting, I said, Zig, I hadn't heard that story before, and you didn't give his name. What was his name? He said, I haven't gotten that far yet.
I love that story.
Because it was totally made up. So now they want to know what sport I'm the captain of. And not being all that familiar with sports to start with, I said, I'm the captain of the balls. And Dad said, captain of the balls? I said, yeah, football, basketball, softball, baseball. I'm captain of all of them. And he said, that is amazing. Until the day he died, I didn't see him that day, but till the day he died, he would say, this is my son. He's president of Holiday Magic Cosmetics. We're very proud of him. But mostly, he was captain of the balls.
You don't want to know where my brain just went. I think everybody
Yeah.
everybody went with me.
Skip over that part.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to know, and this is the last one we'll be caught up. It's a two-parter. They wanted to know about, I take credit probably incorrectly, but my conscience is clear, for large flags outside of auto dealerships and RV centers and all over the country. They're quite common now. And the reason was I had a friend and a client at Marin Bay Lincoln Mercury in San Rafael, California, and the city was just giving them hell about a sign. He had millions of dollars invested in this dealership, buying the land, building the dealership, inventorying it, and so on. And they wanted him to, like in St. Augustine, Florida, where you can't have a sign over 16 inches, and it's got to be made out of natural wood and all sorts of bizarre requirements. They wanted something like that. So he's one street off the freeway, people going by at 70 miles an hour, and they want him to have a sign advertising his dealership that you could have put in your hip pocket. And he was just beside himself. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and I said, I've got it. I've got it. He said, what is it? I said, trust me with this. So I forget how I found him, but I found the largest flagpole manufacturer in the country. I think they were in Columbus, Ohio, as best I recall. And I ordered for him a tall, 40, 50 foot. I'm not into stuff like that, but 40, 50 foot tall flagpole. Started having the place it was going to go prepared, dug out and the cement put in and everything. He said, what are we doing? I said, we're putting up a gigantic, it was called a brigade flag, the largest American flag. You've seen them that cover football fields. It's not that type of flag, but if a real flag that goes up on a pole, brigade flag, is as big as they come. And he said, well, they don't even want me to have a little one. I said, I know, but we were going to call the newspaper and the television stations 4 or 5 days before we put it up, and it's going to be put up by members of the VFW, Veteran of Foreign War, the American Legion. They'll come out with their guns and do the blank 21 gun salute thing. And then we're going to dare the city of San Rafael, California, to take that flag down. And so
That's brilliant.
yeah, so he
I bet you have never lived in an HOA neighborhood, have you?
yes, one, and I broke it up. I
Yeah,
went to one meeting and
I would
broke it up.
When I bought this house, that was my main thing. Do not put me in an HOA. Somebody will die.
I'm with you. I went to one HOA, homeowners association, right?
Yeah.
Went to one meeting because
They're horrible.
we got a little flyer, and so we walked down to the closest intersection, and there were people with lawn chairs and all. And among the things they were upset about was people parking in the street. You were supposed to have no more than 2 cars, and they would fit in your garage in a 2-car garage. Well, in today's life, with a garage, it's always filled with something, at least one of the 2 spots. And so on, that's not really possible. And they said, let us show you an example. and they hold up a picture everybody's supposed to go look at. It was my car. One day it
What?
was parked. Yeah, it was parked in front of the house
Ah,
instead of in the back where the garages are. And they take, and these are friends. I've been in their several of them. I'd been in their homes. We'd socialized. I said, "What the hell is this?" Well, that was your car. We just need an example, and it happened to be out, and so we took a picture of it. And I said, "How many members of this thing are there?" Well, the number of houses in the neighborhood, that was 50. There are 50 homes in this development. And I said, "What's a quorum?" And whatever it was, 2/3 of 50 or something. When I counted heads, I said, "I think we've got a quorum here. I make a motion that we dissolve the homeowners association. Do I have a second?" Somebody seconded. I said, "All right, raise your hands. Let's take a vote." And we dissolved the only meeting I was ever at. I was there maybe 20 minutes and we dissolved it. Then I formed the Deer Crossing. That's the name of our little suburb. The Deer Crossing Neighbors Association. Named myself executive director. Sent out a little flyer so they could all put their information in it and create a directory of neighbors who wanted to have their names listed. And I still have people, that was years ago. I still have people that come up to me now and say, "Now we want to put up a flag and we understand you're head of the neighbors." Yeah. I said, "Yes, I'm the executive director and I hereby approve your flag. I just want to keep them under my thumb for fear they rise up again like black goo."
and they will.
And they will, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that was my brush with the homeowners association, and I didn't even know that term when we put up the flagpole. My theory was, who in the city council is going to come try and tear down a flag that was put up by veterans? And, people with one arm missing from the war they were in and so on. And I
Right.
was right. And it stood for years. And I went past it not too long ago. The dealership, Hurt, the owner, has since retired. And he's gone and the flag's gone. And I was really livid. And I thought, who did that? Well, it's now not a Lincoln dealership. It's a Toyota dealership.
Oh,
So they didn't want the American flag. In the meantime, they sprouted up all over the country. Now, I can't prove I was first, but I think I was. I'd never seen anyone else. And now there's a camping thing, an RV thing that has a flag bigger than a brigade flag. And they do a similar thing wherever they go. First goes up the flagpole, and it's gigantic, and it's bigger than a brigade flag. And they have the local VFW or whomever come out and put it in. And I'm forever reading about them in the business journal. So and so, the RV place is in a lawsuit, and I smile because they're going to lose. No one is going to force them to take those flags down. So that was a funny thing that an example of what you can do to outwit them. And the other one was having to do with flags. Um, there was a group. I had a guy that worked for me named Bob Pettit, and he had a twin brother named Bill Pettit, and they were both in the advertising business at one time as partners. Then they were friendly rivals, and they each had dealerships had dealerships as clients in a little town called Roseville, which is near Sacramento, sort of where we are. And they were fighting each other. 20 auto dealerships pretty much on one street, and buy a Lincoln because Buicks are no good. And the Buick people are saying you can't trust Fords, they're no good. And Bob had some of them as clients. Bill had some of them clients. So I had nothing to do with this except admiration. They got all the dealerships together and formed the Roseville Gang. And the Roseville Gang was made up of auto dealerships, and they combined their advertising, probably much to the chagrin of the television, radio stations, and newspapers, but combined their advertising to get you to the area to visit a member of the Roseville Gang.
see,
And
that
then,
makes perfect sense.
yeah, it does. Turning enemies into a cooperative and tripling your advertising while cutting your costs by like 1/20th of what it had been.
Right.
And So then those people started meeting on a regular basis because they were coordinating their advertising. Now they were all friends. And somebody, again, I had nothing to do with this, it's just what the Pettits told me. They got together and said, we're spread out all over the place and we're running these ads, and some people can't find us or they wind up going to the wrong dealership. Why don't we get some land and put all of us on one plot of land? The Ford dealership will
Like a
be
mall. Yeah, an auto
like
mall.
a mall, except it was an auto mall. The first auto mall was in Roseville, California, and now they are all over the country. And to join the stories together, uh, the each of the dealerships of the Roseville gang has a big flagpole in front of them. It looks like a group gathering for war when you go into the Roseville dealership. And they don't know that that was my idea for Marin Bay Lincoln Mercury in San Rafael, California. So, one last thing on the Pettit brothers. You've seen the WKRP uh, episode. It was an old comedy show, sitcom,
We're
where
talking about the turkey.
the turkeys
Yep, it's that
pushing
time of year.
turkeys out of the helicopter. Well, that was from the Pettit boys in
Oh,
real
no
life.
way.
Well, yeah, they didn't use a helicopter. Sunrise Mall, a mall in Sacramento, was one of their clients. And either Bill or Bob said, I've got an idea. Let's have a turkey thing, and we'll have 100 turkeys on the roof of the mall, and then we'll just herd them off the mall down into the fluttering into the waiting arms of children and mothers and fathers and so on. And the other one, I guess both of them were raised in cities. The other one said,
I was
"Oh,
gonna say a turkey can smash you flat.
yeah." And the big-breasted domestic turkeys
Yep,
don't fly. They're like
they do not.
cannonballs.
And they'll run you down too.
So they got a bunch of college kids up on the roof with pushers, picture like a push broom, but with a wider blade of wood. And they begin pushing the turkeys off the roof. And the crowd is screaming, and Bob and Bill are nodding at each other, smiling, saying, "Isn't this great? Listen how excited they are." Well, they were excited because turkeys were dropping on people, hitting with a splat because they were 3 stories in the air when they made them jump
Oh
off.
my God.
So the Roseville gang turned into the Roseville Auto Mall, the first in the country, decorated by American flags, thanks to Ben Gay and his idea over give us a sign. And then after we all enjoyed those stories about how wonderful we are, the Pettit brothers shoved 100 turkeys to their death in front of thousands of uh, witnesses. I was telling Bob Pettit one day about him, and I said I was watching WKRP, and they had the funniest thing on. He said, "The turkey drop." I said, "Oh, you know about it?" He said, "Ben, sit down."
I've got a story to tell you. And I have to tell you, listen, in this part of the country, if those turkeys if they didn't hurt you on the way down, they would get picked up and cooked. Seriously.
Oh,
I
sure.
had, you know,
Some of these probably were, but
oh, undoubtedly.
yeah.
Years ago, I was telling you about my house I lived in before I bought this one, and it had above ground utilities. Here, everything is underground, but everything went bad. I mean, the breaker just went splat, and that was the end of it, and just knocked out the whole neighborhood. And I went out, and it was in my yard, at the edge of my yard, and there's this squirrel there was in complete rigor. I mean, it was stiff. And the utility guy gets there about 30 minutes ago, and he comes and he knocks on my door. He goes, "How long's that squirrel been dead?" I said, "About 30 minutes." He said, "Okay." He took it home and he made a gumbo, not a gumbo, but a sauce piquant out of it. I still just go, "Oh my God." That is just, he was dead serious. He said, "I'm going to take," I said, "What are you going to do with this? I'm going to cook it." "Oh, don't go away. Just go fix the pole. Don't talk to me anymore."
We used to, I've never, I've probably had things, if you've had Brunswick stew, you've probably had a lot of things that you didn't know because everything goes in
Right.
the pot.
Right.
So
Like a gumbo.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So no, I've never eaten squirrel. Where are you from? Was raised in the South. You've eaten squirrel. You
Yeah,
just don't know that you've eaten squirrel.
and this is the worst thing, nutria rat.
Hmm.
Oh, it would taste like chicken. No, it doesn't.
Merle Fraser, one of my early mentors, inherited a farm from his father, and he said one of his sports was he sat in it was up on a hill overlooking a creek that ran through the property. And he said one of his sports, he was telling me, was to sit in his father's old bedroom, take out the screen, raise the window, and he said, and I shoot nutrias. We got a lot of nutrias, and they tunnel around and they destroy things and so on. I said, my God, that's, I guess, a great idea. Probably not a bad sport. Uh, what do you do with the bodies? He said, I just threw them on the bank. I ain't got but one. He has this sniper's nest set up and grand plans. And by the time first time I heard the story, I ain't got but one.
Yeah.
Apparently, nutrients are hard to shoot. I was raised on East Lake Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, the street that goes up to East Lake Country Club, Bobby Jones' home course, where I was sort of raised. And on that street, we had the electric trolleys, not with the rails, but just the two things that go up to the wires in the air, regular air tires and everything. And the trolleys would go by both ways, and I guess they were street cars. I'm not sure what you'd call them, but they were loaded with caddies coming in from their homes to go to East Lake, and they would get to the club, and they would get off the trolley within two stops either way of our house. So I got where I knew a lot of them and said hello to them and everything. And their sport for coming up with dinner when they got home was if a squirrel or a possum or whatever touched both wires,
Oh boy.
they were immediately electrocuted and dropped to the street. And the caddies would come by. Every one of them had a burlap bag, and they would run to see who got the next one. Maybe they rotated among themselves. But I thought, do the families back home know that they're eating electrocuted possums, raccoons, squirrels, and so on? But they did because they were putting them in gumbo and Brunswick stew and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And seasoned properly, it tastes great. I just don't want to know sometimes what I'm eating.
Yeah.
I've probably eaten more raccoon than I realize. Just don't tell me.
See, I like alligator. It's yummy.
I've had my first job, real job with the corporation, was at Macy's. It was called Davison, so the Yankees wouldn't, the Southerners would know the Yankees were in town, but it was Macy's. And I worked in, among other departments, the exotic animal was a gourmet food thing. And I was broke, so I was not above snatching a can of something and going in the stockroom and eating it. And as a result, I discovered that fried grasshoppers are quite good. If you don't know they're a grasshopper, it tastes just like a potato chip.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
alligator is good,
Oh yeah.
and all sorts of things. And my father, when I told him, he said, "How can you eat that?" I said, "Dad, you've never been as hungry as I am. I'm still growing, and I'm broke."
And escargot, snails, call it what
Oh, I
it is,
love
but
it.
oh, me
Escargot. Yeah,
too.
yeah. What
Love
I
it.
like is garlic butter, and
Yeah.
and in it happens to be some snails. But the first time I ordered those at my favorite restaurant in Tiburon, California, they said, "And would you like some escargot?" And I said, "What is that exactly?" And they said, "I'm from the South. I've moved to California. I'm not cool yet." I said, "What is that exactly?" And she said, "Snails." And I said, "Oh, God." And somebody at the table said, "Ben, order them."
Yep.
And I did, and I was
Yeah.
instantly in love.
Oh yeah, same here.
God, they're good.
They really are. And, there's just so many different I do this with crawfish. I eat a lot of crawfish and shrimp. I mean,
Hmm.
shrimp is, I eat shrimp the way a lot of people eat hamburgers or chicken. And I will make the escargot butter, and I'll just dip my crawfish, kind of cook it lightly because you can't cook it too much, it turns gray, and just dip it in there. It's like,
or
oh my
bread or
goodness.
anything else.
Yeah,
The
a carrot,
escargot is like a
anything.
pencil eraser.
Yeah.
Uh, there's,
Yeah.
take by itself, unseasoned, there's really not much to them. I wouldn't order escargot and chew on just a snail by itself because it doesn't have much taste. But you put garlic butter on it, I'm in.
Mhm. I'll put it
Oh,
on just darn near anything. You know what we have not done, Ben, and we've only got about 10 more minutes? We haven't talked about sales professionals. We've been waxing nostalgic about a lot of things, so we'll pick this up again next week, but,
but and a lot of the stories I'm telling are based on things I tell in selling. People
yeah.
love word pictures. So let's just wrap up the thing about next year with this. Last week we talked about the system and so on. And so you don't wrap up the year. You start out January 1st doing what you're going to be doing on December 31st. There shouldn't be any significant difference. And the theme I was going to touch on today is from the Bible: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. When someone walks into your dealership, store, gets on the phone with you, on the computer, whatever, do unto them the way you would want to be treated. And that's not spitting in your hand, rubbing your hands together. I'm going to make you a deal, tell you what I'm going to do, etc. You wouldn't want that done to you if you walked into your store. Don't do it to them. Treat them graciously. And I say, just to get a word picture for next week, become have the charm and softness of a funeral director and behave like you're at a wedding. In
Hmm,
other words,
I'm stitching that together.
yep.
Oh, okay. So a funeral director is basically quiet, a little bit solemn, and they're being sincere about their wish to help you get through whatever it is that you're going through, even if you hated the body in the casket, which has happened. But, you know, word pictures. But then a wedding, you want to be happy, you want to be helpful. What else?
But if you're talking to, I always picture it when I use the wedding example, I always picture that I'm talking to the bride or the mother of the bride. And that is funny and weird as I can be. I'm on my very best behavior at that point. And as a funeral director, I've done a lot of work in the funeral industry. Um, I will let them guide me. If you're Irish and want to make jokes, I'm with you. But we're going to start out with, Mr. Gay, how are you? Welcome to Taylor Funeral Home or whatever.
Mhm.
And tell me how I can be of service. And then throw in the behavior of a wedding for mother of the bride or whatever. Quick one. A dear friend of mine, a cousin-in-law, uh, got out of real estate, at least temporarily, because of the market and the interest rates and so on. And he went to work at a funeral home down in Sacramento. And he gets back the first day. He said, Ben, you're not going to believe it. And I said, what? He said, the closers books are all over the place.
In
When
a
you look,
funeral home?
and I said, yeah, they're supposed to be. I sold them to him. He said, I didn't know you knew these people. I said, yeah, I knew them. In fact, I actually sold there for a while to test my scripts. And I said, the script that you're starting to learn, I wrote 25 years ago. So now to him, I'm a big deal. I've known him for 30 years. He's an in-law to Gigi. And all of a sudden, because I've sold pre-need funeral services, I'm really an impressive guy.
And again, it goes back to observing. People are watching what you're doing, but, and I'm going to just go ahead and say this out loud, if you don't tell them what you're doing or share a path so they can find out what you're doing, what you're bringing to the table, you're invisible. Stop being
Right.
invisible. And I think that's what a lot of salespeople, where they might make some mistakes. They're just, "Oh, I've got this list. The company gave me a list. I'm going to cold call," but they're not out there becoming memorable.
Correct.
Okay, I thought that was it, but it's so easy to just say, "Well, yeah, I'm just gonna go do my thing. I'm gonna do what they told me to do," and you kind of just top out at whatever they've set for you, they being, the company that hired you to go sell their stuff. You have to be out there being Mary Kay and being gay and, getting out there and finding out where you can make a difference with your prospects and becoming memorable and helpful. They'll like you've
The
said
curve.
so many times, people still are contacting you after 40, 50 years.
Yep. Had one this morning,
Yeah?
uh, 50 years ago, I guess. But it's not, to me, it's not 50 years ago. It was also the week before this one and the week before that and so on. I Some go away, and then if you treat them well, come back. Situations change. Some are not in. If I was selling real estate sales training, I am. But if I was doing only that, I would have lost my cousin-in-law for a while. Uh, but
How
it turned,
so?
well, because he went off to sell pre-need funeral plans.
Oh, gotcha.
There's an example of where the selling is really done. If you can get in the home of someone to discuss pre-need funeral planning, the closing rate, unless you're a total idiot, is 100%. The
Well, it's not
sell
something they can ignore, is it?
No, we're all gonna do it. You've let
Yeah.
them in the house to discuss your imminent demise, etcetera. The selling, because 'cause I'm always teaching, know what you're selling at each step along the way, because it changes. The selling in the pre-need funeral industry is getting them to let you in the house. So the most important script I ever wrote for them is the telephone script, where you're either responding to their incoming call or you're cold calling. Because and you keep in your mind, if they will let me in their house, I have a sale.
Now why do you need to go to their house?
That's just where pre-need is sold generally, because you want the
Okay.
husband and the wife. It's
Right.
You could do it anywhere. You could do it over lunch in a restaurant. But I sold a few dozen of them just testing my scripts, and they were all in the home. But the most important script I wrote for them was getting in the house.
Well, and that makes sense in getting in the house because that's where they're comfortable. That's where they have memories of their family members being there for Thanksgiving. We're heading that way.
Yeah.
You've got pictures on the mantle. It's home and they need to, they'll probably, I'm guessing, unconsciously be looking around and going, "Yeah, I don't want them to have to worry about this."
Yep. Yep.
Okay, got it.
Well, as usual, I have enjoyed being with you today, and I thank David Brown for being our sponsor. And I'm going to do a quick um, book thing just to tell them where I was giving the long thing, as I've slowly figured out from you it wasn't necessary. Uh, Go to eBay and then look up Ronzoni Books, all one word, I guess it is, but maybe they have it broken up. Ronzone Books, Books. And there you'll find the closer selection include. Well, I don't think it's up yet, but I hold in my hand the closers part 6 by Mo Nawatz in Europe and me, but mainly Mo. And I have a sample copy in my hand, but I'm about to have several hundred delivered. So we have a new addition to the Closers family. The only gap in the Closers series is the Closers Part 4. Let's see, who is that by? Oh, oh, Denise Griffitts. Yeah, that's you. We seem to have lost Denise.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, that would be me, and I'm getting I'm getting yes in my little voice, but, I'm getting really close to it, but when I first started writing that book, I was terrified, and I kept telling you, "But Ben, I don't know that I can write this. I'm not a very good writer," but you kept saying, "Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are." So thank you for the encouragement. And now that I've really gotten into it and made some edits and added and subtracted, moved stuff out is what
Took
I
stuff
did.
off.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm like, okay, this is going to be a killer book. I'm very proud of it.
Well, you're an excellent writer, and I can't wait to see the final version and so on. But soon on the internet, because I'm holding a sample in my hand, The Closers Part 6 is joining the family, and Part 7 with Randy Chaffee and Wes Wyatt is being done, along with yours. It's being done. So we're about to be to The Closers Part 7. Pretty exciting considering where we started.
We're a family.
Yeah. Well, you have
Nice.
a great day, but tell them how to get in touch with you.
Oh, it's easy. Go to yourpartnerinsuccessradio.com. You'll find this, because this is where you're hosted. The Closers Inner Circle podcast is hosted by Your Partner in Success Radio. So easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn. You can call me 888, it's toll free, 888-719-6711. Ask me questions. I'm doing a lot of podcast mentoring these days. It's not really mentoring, it's more like what you're doing, Ben. I've set up a system where people can get in touch with me. They have a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of time. I'm still working on
Mhm.
that part, but I'm doing what you're doing. I have a new mentorship, which means that so many people, and I'll have to put it in that show real quick. So many people say, well, I've got a team, I've got a social media person, I've got this, I've got that. There's always, always going to be something that they don't know about. I
Mhm.
can help you with that. There's not a whole lot about the podcast industry that I don't know about, and if I don't know about it, I'll either find it or make it up. So you
And
I'll
either one will work.
I'll create it for you, but I'm excited about that because rather than have people say, "Okay, I'm going to work with you for 6 weeks," and then stuff happens and they don't show up. This way they can do like they do with you, and I'll have you explain what you do because 'cause you're better at it than I am so far. I'm gonna catch up. But they can just pick my brain anytime they need to because they've paid for it, they've got the time.
Exactly. I keep a ledger. It's a retainer like you'd have with an attorney,
Exactly. Right, right, right.
and you spend it the way you want to spend it. I think I've told you, and it hasn't changed. I've got one guy who has a credit of about 3 hours left that he's had left for, I don't know, as long as I've been coaching, 5, 10 years, 10 years probably. And because he doesn't need me for much. He's very successful. He calls for one-word answers. Ben, here's the situation. Yes or no? I say yes. He's okay. Thanks. Boom. He's gone. At that rate, you don't burn up your retainer very quickly. And I've had others who get on the phone and use their retainer in a day or two. So, but that's up to them. With me and now you don't have to make up something to discuss next Thursday at 3 o'clock because we don't talk next Thursday at 3 o'clock unless you, the client, want to
Right,
and need to. And I find if it's sort of back to the do unto others thing, I found that is a big help with people because I wouldn't want to have a forced meeting once a week, once a month, where I'm supposed to come up with questions for problems in my life. I frequently don't have any problems. And
right.
when I do, they come in waves.
I like to goo.
Yeah.
But I did know, and I do a lot of mentoring or training, I guess you could call it, with, new podcast hosts, and they're either going to show up or they're not. And it can
Hmm.
get very, very frustrating on my end, at least. So I'm trying to avoid that by putting them on a retainer. So when you need me, I'm here. When you need help, I'm here. But a lot of them don't need they don't want homework. And I was having
Yep.
to give out a lot of homework. Time consuming, didn't really work all that well, but this works much better.
Well, as I said a moment ago, you have a wonderful day. It was a pleasure as always, and I look forward to next week.
Me too.